Anna and I flew from Katowice to Hurghada on the Red Sea. We spent a day in an hotel before heading to the Valley of the Kings. We left the hotel crack of dawn in the morning with a long bus ride ahead of us to the valley. Anna and I missed our alarm and slept in. Not a great start. We were taken from the entrance by a toy train to the tombs. It was way too hot to walk. Each tomb had an information panel. The amount of colour remaining after all this time was remarkable. There was no photography, of course. The number of tombs was incredible. Even though the overall site was locked up, every tomb was locked up individually as well. Some of the walls showed damage, I guess, from vandals or grave robbers. As we knew we were going to the Egyptian Museum, we didn't enter King Tut's tomb. We were told there wasn't much to see. As well, there was a significant additional charge. The mortuary temple of Hatshepsut was built during the 18th dynasty. It is located opposite the city of Luxor. Its three massive terraces rise above the desert floor and the cliffs of Deir el-Bahri. Her tomb lies inside the same massif capped by El Korn, a pyramid for her mortuary complex. Once again, it was way too hot to walk, so they took us in toy trains. There are 6 granite sphinxes at the site. Poles are extensively involved in the ongoing excavation. Stray dogs were quite common. Their ears indicated that they were vaccinated against rabies. The colossi of Memnon are 2 massive stone statues of Imhotep III. That night we were let loose in Luxor. We started by trying these hookahs. They were awful. Then we had a carriage ride. Luxor was teeming with people. This is Luxor railway station. Towards the end of our ride, we came up to the imposing Luxor temple. It is brilliantly illuminated. We did come back in daylight hours. Pigeons were quite common in the ancient monuments. We began our cruise from Luxor on the River Anyakit ship. It was really rather lovely, having multiple decks and a swimming pool and feeds every night. It took us to all the monuments along the way to Aswan. We even passed through a loch. We had a river level room and we got spectacular views. Medinet Habu is situated at the foot of the Theban hills on the west bank of the Nile, opposite Luxor. The origins of the name Medinet Habu are unknown. The temple was for Ramesses III. This is the bottom part of a cartouche, which is sort of a signature of a king. This is created from a single piece of granite. The Valley of the Queens is where queens, princes, princesses and other high-ranking officials were buried. It was known recently as Tar Set Neferu, which has a double meaning of place of beauty and or place of the royal children. To get back to our ship, we had to go on these little boats across the river. Cruising is obviously popular. There were lots of these ships. As our cruise began in earnest, we bid Luxor goodbye. There was no shortage of feluccas. We even got to travel on one later on. The ship only just gets under the bridge, but I guess it was designed that way. Our next stop was Karnak. They took us to the historical site in this lovely carriage. The Karnak temple complex comprises a vast mix of temples, pylons, chapels and other buildings. It is relatively close to Luxor. Construction began about 1970 BC. The god Amun was the chief god. This is the god Horus. Nearly everywhere we went there were people trying to sell stuff. The Temple of Edfu is relatively modern by Egyptian standards, being built between 237 and 57 BC. The inscriptions on the walls of the building provide important information on language, myth and religion during the Egyptian Hellenistic period. Komombo is unusual in it is a double temple designed for two gods. The southern hall of the temple was dedicated to the crocodile god Sobek, the god of fertility and creator of the world, while the northern part of the temple was dedicated to the falcon god Heroes. This could be the Egyptian equivalent of MotoGP. Abu Simbel is an historic site comprising two massive rock-cut temples. It is located on the western bank of Lake Nasser, about 230 kilometres southwest of Aswan. The temples were originally carved out of the mountainside in the 13th century BC. Their huge external rock relief figures of Ramesses II have become iconic. His wife Nefertari and children can be seen in smaller figures by his feet. Sculptures inside the Great Temple commemorate Ramesses II's heroic leadership in the Battle of Kadesh. The complex was relocated in its entirety in 1968 to higher ground to avoid it being submerged by Lake Nasser. We rode on a falaka out to Kitchener's Island, where the Aswan Botanic Gardens are. Even though it is just below the Aswan High Dam, the Nile River is still remarkably wide here in Aswan. I don't know if anybody bought anything. Hoopies are found across Africa, Asia and Europe. Kitchener's Island to the west of Elephantine Island was given to Kitchener in the 1890s when he was commander of the Egyptian army. Indulging his passion for palms and plants, Kitchener turned the entire island into the Aswan Botanical Gardens. The memorial monument of the Arab-Soviet friendship commemorates the completion of Aswan High Dam in 1970. The coat of arms of Egypt is on the left and the Soviet Union on the right. The military were highly visible at the dam. The next day we took a boat trip out to Philae Temple. This one had also been drowned and raised up. The Philae Temple complex is an island-based temple complex in the reservoir of the Aswan Low Dam, downstream of the Aswan High Dam. The temple complex was dismantled and moved to Ajilkia Island as part of the Nubia Campaign project. We regularly went through metal detectors. They rarely worked. Despite appearances to the contrary, the train was very comfortable. I was too busy taking photographs and nearly missed it. It was a sleeper, the bed was comfortable and the meals were quite pleasant. Memphis was the ancient capital of Lower Egypt. The site is now an open-air museum. The Pyramid of Djoser, sometimes called the Step Pyramid, is an archaeological site in the Saqqara necropolis, northwest of the ruins of Memphis. It was the first pyramid to be built. These blokes offered me a ride on their donkey. When it came to tip time, I only had 100 Egyptian pounds. All my friends said I owned the donkey. Cairo is a filthy place. There's even islands of rubbish in the waterways. There's plenty of water in the Nile by the time it reaches Cairo. Signs often amaze me. The citadel was begun by the Kurdish Ayyub ruler Saladin between 1176 and 1183 AD in order to protect Cairo from potential Crusaders' attacks and to provide a secure centre of government for his new regime. The citadel provided a comprehensive view of Cairo. The National Police Museum is one of the exhibitions in Saladin's citadel. The pyramids are remarkably close to the city of Cairo. This road leads to the Christian cathedral, and there were piles of garbage. In January 2017, following twin terrorist attacks that killed at least 27 Coptic Egyptians at St. Peter and St. Paul's Church in Cairo in December 2006, the President commissioned the construction of the country's largest mosque and church in the new administrative capital to become symbols of coexistence and national unity. The Giza Pyramid Complex in Egypt is home to the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafre and the Pyramid of Menkaure, along with their associated pyramid complexes and the Great Sphinx. All were built during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom between 2600 and 2500 BC. We all know of the 3 large pyramids, but there is quite a number of smaller ones in the complex. Here we are taking a panoramic view of Cairo from the pyramid site. Great Sphinx of Giza is a limestone statue of a reclining sphinx, a mythical creature with the head of a human and the body of a lion. Facing directly from west to east, it stands on the Giza Plateau on the west bank of the Nile. The face of the sphinx appears to represent the pharaoh Khafre. There is a myth that Napoleon's soldiers shot off its nose. That is untrue. The Museum of Egyptian Antiquities is located in Cairo and houses the largest collection of Egyptian antiquities in the world. There are over 120,000 items. The star exhibit for the best part of the last century has been the treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb, which was discovered in 1922. It occupies 2 whole galleries on the upper floor. This has recently moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum. Unfortunately, the beautiful death mask of Tutankhamun is not available for photography. The high curved back of the ceremonial throne of Tutankhamun is fitted to a stool with crossed legs carved to represent the necks and heads of ducks. The museum is vast. The Heliopolis Palace is one of the 5 Egyptian presidential palaces and residences. The whole thing is plastic. Today, the Library of Alexandria is an academic powerhouse that impacts cultural and social life in Egypt and beyond. It hosts an annual average of 1,500 programs, lectures, classes, concerts, and 1 million visitors. The Roman amphitheatre is one of the most important monuments in Alexandria. These were used to protect the police during the riots of the Arab Summer. After the trip, Anna and I recovered for a few days in the Seagull Beach Resort, which is located right in the centre of Hurghada. It had beautiful gardens, well-appointed rooms, several pools including an adult pool, an aqua park, and lots of room for relaxation.